After almost a decade, Marvel has finally released our next team-up movie in the MCU. And did it live up to the expectations of being the next team-up movie in the MCU? Well, let's talk about it. I just want to start off by saying, yes, this is the team-up movie that we long waited for in the MCU. Like I mentioned in the intro, it's been a decade since we got Avengers Endgame, well, almost a decade. And ever since then, we never really got a team-up movie where we introduce characters throughout these different projects and have them team up by the end of it to connect all their storylines together. That's what really been missing in the multiverse saga for Marvel. We never got that, and that's what made the Infinity Saga so great, is that interconnected story and that overarching character arcs with each character that slowly finishes and eventually ends in Endgame. And we just been missing that in the multiverse saga. But Thunderbolts is finally our team-up movie in the MCU where we actually get that. We have characters that were introduced in Phase 4 and 3 and have them get a character arc. We introduce these characters and finally get the team-up movie that we waited for so long for in the MCU. And it's just great to see some of these characters back again. Yelena, Red Guardian, Bucky, Walker, Ghost, Taskmaster. It's just great to see all these characters back on screen again. It's been 4 years since we really saw Black Widow, which is where we saw most of these characters. So it's about time we finally see them again, because Red Guardian especially is a fan favorite. Bucky is also another fan favorite. And you finally see these characters that were introduced that you always wanted to see again finally return. And it's nice to see these faces are finally back in the MCU in this team-up movie. And some characters even got a redemption arc. They got character arcs throughout the entire movie. Going into this movie, I wasn't a fan of some of these characters in here. Like Ghost, I didn't really see how Ghost was necessary. But I think this movie did a good job at redeeming her character. I now like the character of Ghost. I always liked the character of John Walker. I feel like this movie made me like him even more. Yelena also has a huge character arc throughout this entire movie too, which I will dive into later on. And it's just great to see these characters finally have the redemption that they needed, which is technically the whole point of the movie, having these side characters being a team-up movie. And I feel like the movie just nailed that on every mark. I don't care what anyone says, I love Sentry as a villain. Once he's actually the villain of the movie, he is strong. He is one of the strongest people in the entire MCU. And I'm glad that they took this route of the story to take. Especially, it connects to the theme. I love the theme of the story. And they found a good balance at mixing it with the theme and villain of the story. Just mixing those two elements together to make this movie. That's why the movie works so well. It's more of a mental health kind of theme. And the villain Sentry connects to that. And the entire movie is just held from the theme. And it's nice to have that in the Marvel movie. What they did with this character was terrifying, and I loved it. And this movie just feels like classic MCU. It kind of feels like that original Avengers movie, which it's good because that's the vision in mind. And they nailed it. Almost nailed it, I will dive into that, but when the movie needs to do the right moments, it has the right moments. It has the emotional beats, it has the character dynamics with all these characters interacting with one another, and we get to see how they interact with each other. It just feels like classic MCU, and it feels like they're getting back on track to being what they were in the past. Especially with Thunderbolts, it is starting that. And this movie's not trying to be anything big or grand. It is very much street level. It gets more grander by the end of the movie, but the main theme and such is very much street level, and I appreciate it for doing that. Not everything needs to be this big multiversal shenanigan stuff. Very much street level, and I loved it. Now my problems, I do wish this was more of a team-up movie. I feel like the movie focuses too much on Yelena's character arc. We're getting a lot of focus on Yelena and Sentry, which I'm fine with Sentry, but for a team-up movie, I would have liked focus on every other character. As much as I like Yelena and Sentry, they were too much of the main characters in this movie. You could obviously tell that they were the main focus of the movie. For a team-up movie, I would have liked all the characters to have the same amount of screen time as these two did. because they're very much the main two of the movie. They're the main stars of it. And I wish that, you focused more on Red Guardian, Bucky, John Walker, Ghost. Flesh those characters out. I love what you did with them, but there's stuff missing, and you could have definitely tightened it up a bit. Now, I did mention before, story is generic. Street level, but predictable story. Which is both good and bad. You don't want anything big and grand in scale, but you don't want it to be too predictable. But by this point, we got in a lot of superhero movies that this problem is going to occur so many times from this point forward. But just how the plot works, it feels like it's a movie that would be coming out in the classic MCU era, which is a good thing, but it can lead to a predictable story. Which leads me to my next thing. I do wish a lot more things were fleshed out. Characters, plot points. I feel like not everything was fleshed out. My characters, like I mentioned, I wanted more focused on Ghost and John Walker. Flesh those characters out a bit more to make you care about them just a little bit more. This movie was never able to reach my expectations that I had going into this movie. To be fair, I was expecting an Avengers level movie, but what I got out of it was great. I loved my time with the movie, and I want this movie to succeed. Especially something that happened at the ending is very crucial to the overall MCU. You need to watch this movie just to understand that. But don't go into the movie expecting that, because this movie is very much not connected to the overall MCU, and you can just enjoy it for a street level, team up movie with a mental theme. And that's what makes Thunderbolts stand out, which is why I enjoyed it as much as I did. It has problems, it never lived up to my expectations, but needs to succeed at the box office because it deserves it. But anyways, if you like this video, maybe leave those on the side of you too. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Goodbye.